O tēnā rā tātou e te whānau, ko Teresa Rutherford tuku ingoa, ko kai whakahaere nā amotiatia ki te Wānanga o Aotearoa, anō te whanganui a tara ahau, nā mahi mahana kia koutou katoa. I am here today with my colleague Ross McDougall, who is our analyst in Te Ata Hāpara, and we're here to basically kōrero about Te Ata Hāpara, which is a Te Wānanga o Aotearoa approach to supporting tauira success. It is our tauira-centric, proactive and accessible tiered services model. I'll invite Ross to open up the presentation and share that with you all, and then we can get into that kaupapa. Awesome, thanks Ross. The whakapapa kōrero behind the ingoa Te Ata Hāpara is that it is one of the phases of dawn. This metaphor represents the breaking dawn, the new beginning, coming out of the dark and into the light, and this very meaningful ingoa was coined by the original Te Ata Hāpara project team. So in speaking about the original Te Ata Hāpara project team, it would be really remiss of me to not acknowledge our colleague Richard Neal, who was one of the founding members or the original members of the Te Ata Hāpara team, whose passion for tauira success was definitely heard in his presentation preceding my one. So ngā mihi Richard, and I don't expect to receive any questions from you at all in regard to this kaupapa, so quiet over there in the corner. But like Richard announced in his presentation, we only have 20 minutes, whānau, so we're going to be presenting a very high level slice of this very important kaupapa with you all today. If we can flick onto the next, thanks Ross. It's really important for me to premise this presentation with the fact that Te Kaupapa Matua o Te Wānanga o Aotearoa provides the reference point for what we do, what we offer, and how we do it. They are the lens that we apply to our mahi at all times and is naturally inherent with every facet of Te Ata Hāpara. This kaupapa Māori rich korowai provides a solid foundation and wraps around this mahi. So having this korowai in place, Te Ata Hāpara has allowed us to gain a really deeper awareness of who our tauira are, where they come from, where they want to be, and how we can move forward in supporting them. We have also identified our pain points, as Richard alluded to his pain points in his presentation, or challenges, and we've flipped that around to have a more solution-focused kōrero and having like that real deep whakawhiti kōrero approach to solving those needs as they arise. Te Ata Hāpara is centred around 5 kaupai or 5 different levels, with our intent essentially being to meet the tauira where they are. It's really important to note that this is an evolving kaupapa, which allows us to have ongoing reflection or aro, to be able to learn and adjust to meet the need of our tauira, utilising data, behavioural insights and engagement with our whānau. The tauira voice is very active and present within this kaupapa, with the ultimate aim being to improve the tauira experience and achievement. So far, we've been able to develop and test proactive engagement and support services. Tauira journeys are live and form part of a wider support approach, including nurture communications, micro interventions, which include our Te Ata Hāpara Support Centre, who proactively reach out to tauira, and our on-the-ground support advisors that are based across the motu and our 3 takiwā. That's a really important piece of mahi in itself, and to hear more about what that actually looks like from a systems perspective and sort of the learnings we've gained from that, I'll hand the time over to our awesome Ross, who is going to, as he would say, geek out and share those data and insights with you all today. Ngā mihi whānau, over to you, Ross.
Thank you, Teresa. Kia ora, everyone. Ko Ross McDougall toku ingoa. He hure whakahere ahau no ngā kauai whakapapa o Kotemana, hoi koi waikato toku whenua tupu. It's a pleasure to be here and speak to you all today. I've been to a few of these in the past, so I just want to acknowledge and thank you all for the opportunity to have a chat. Great to catch up with Richard again. Richard was the one who hired me for this role many moons ago, got me all excited and sold me the moon, and then a few months later, I said, I'm going down to Wellington. So it's actually quite nice. A nice opportunity to show you what I've been up to, since the last time we caught up. I don't want to wax on too much about some of the historical stuff. We've all had similar discussions and aha moments, especially off the back of Georgia State insights and looking at data sets and data points and what have you. Our interpretation and application of that was with our initial rangaho, where we looked at our data and the wealth of data that we had. We recognized specific data points that had the largest contributor to success or non-success, and broke them down to a demographical in terms of what we can collect the point of application and what we know about the tauira or prospective tauira, and behavioral once they are in our systems and start engaging and are in the programs. We have various platforms of support and various platforms of learning management systems. So looking at the largest contributors or largest effect to success in terms of which data points show the most, we were able to group them. And this grouping we found a range from, say, the low 80s to the low 60s in terms of completion rate, retention rate, and the average chance of success. So with all of that data and insight, we started off initially with our visualizations and visualization tools, so we could really drill down to our to these insights. These groupings we call COPI levels. So looking at these behavioral and demographical groupings per COPI level, we can start drilling down to be like, well, what programs, what areas, what takiwa, what demographical breakdowns do we have that reinforces the initial allocation of our grouping based on the data points, individual data points. Are there any particular programs, program levels, any trends that we can have a look at, so we can start understanding this grouping a little bit more and develop a little bit of a plan in terms of, which I loved what you were saying in terms of bringing the mountain. As I agree with him completely, the majority of people that would be within the larger groupings would be unengaged tauira. So we are wanting to formulate a plan as to, well, how do we engage with them, bring the mountain to them, essentially, which comes to well, now that we have all of these insights and we can start breaking down these levels and programs and what have you to all these particular groupings, so what? Well, from here, we can start making data-driven solutions that are less anecdotal and more specific to our COPI levels and to trends that we're finding within these COPI levels. We can identify particular programs, particular areas, particular demographical or behavioral data points that we would like to create specific processes for. Because this is all data that now sits in a repository within our data warehouse, we have the potential to connect it to something and connect it to a workflow, or connect it to a system or a CRM system for various insights or actions. And on that note, in terms of developing the workflow, we really wanted to ensure that it was scalable. We wanted to go with an approach that allowed us to engage with people within these particular groupings at mass, and also in a way that would be of value, and especially for the behaviorals based on what they have currently done. So we needed an ability to be able to identify and then trigger a process or support almost instantaneously. So what we've done is the creation of a Te Ata Hāpara workflow, where we identify the tauira and store that information within our data warehouse, to which then we can categorize based on COPI and potential response levels. We then needed to find a workflow and a system that would allow us to do that. Now, that had various solution requirements in terms of connecting to various applications, various data sources, and be able to communicate on multiple platforms, be it email, SMS, phone, case management for our Te Ata Hāpara agents. Often these programs and systems that allow us to do that are enterprise level products. So we needed to have quite open communications with any other department that would be looking at using systems such as that. Coming back to our requirement about it being a scalable model. And then last and foremost is we measure the impact. If we have a definitive strategy in terms of what we are setting out to do, which for us was having a net positive increase to course completions and unit completions via the identification of COPI levels that would benefit from those type of engagements, have we actually succeeded in that or not? So when this is our data model that we have developed for the platforms that we are using, and it kind of shows, and we'll touch on some of these points a little bit later, the complexity of these kind of enterprise products. We have all of our behavioral information coming in at point of application, demographical information coming in at point of application. We have our various data sources in terms of various CRM systems and learning management suites where our Aotearoa and Konai are being done by our tauira in class or learning from home. We have a data warehouse that we have created to centralize and store all of this information and allow analysts like me to then find this information and do things with this information, or be able to connect various systems that may not natively connect. And then what we've done is in the data warehouse with all of this information and being able to identify the Konai levels, we then feed that into our communication platform of choice. For us, it's Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Salesforce Marketing Cloud allowed us to connect to our data warehouse with data extensions and APIs to then create individual journeys for particular tauira based on behavioral triggers. And then once we get to the end of that, then we can measure the impact. So Marketing Cloud connects to our data warehouse. It's where we store all of the identification of our tauira and their Konai level. The data extension runs at any schedule that I want, really. But there's a schedule that's set. It runs. It looks at the most up-to-date information that's been collated from all of these various data sources into the data warehouse. And for this particular journey we're looking at is our LMS platform usage, our learning management suites. This is where the tauira would be submitting their assessments, doing their units, and their aromatawai completions. This particular LMS platform is deeply embedded into these course deliverables, so there is an expectation that it is being used. This particular journey will trigger based on non-usage of the platform if they haven't logged in over a particular time period. We wanted digital first to be our first communication, again, to recognize the potential for scalability in terms of being able to send, say, 2,000 emails to tauira that have met these behavioral triggers conditions in terms of non-LMS usage. But this system allows us to then do an engagement check. We wait one day and have they opened the email or not? If they have, sweet as, thank you very much. That's great. If they haven't, we can then wait. We then have another decision split, which looks at their Konai level. It's like, well, are they level 0 to 1? Well, that's a low metric, so we let them continue on through the journey. However, 2 to 5, that's where it starts ramping up a bit. Well, this is where we can automate further engagement. The system allows us to then recheck, send a text message via the system to remind them that we've had an email that's sent out. We can wait another day, and then we do another engagement check. Has that first email been opened after the text message reminder in 24 hours? If yes, sweet as, thank you very much. If no, this is where we can connect back to our CRM systems for our agents and then start allocating cases to our agents. This platform allows us to create cases in Salesforce, which gets routed to our Te Ata Hāpara agents. They are predominantly outbound. Where workload are these cases. It gives us the reassurance that we've done a digital first approach, and we're kind of, in terms of a conversion funnel, it's providing me with a lot of opportunities to ensure that the work that I'm allocating to our Te Ata Hāpara agents in terms of who we're contacting is based on behaviors, based on konai level, and based on non-engagement. So their outbound attempts are kind of like the last step. This is where we can confirm whether or not we have the right information about them. Is the email address accurate? Is the phone number accurate? So on and so forth. But this system allows me to automate this. So week in, week out, it'll trigger based on, the data warehouse updates every 24 hours. So it's based on current behavior. One of the things I really wanted to ensure was that we have the ability to get up-to-date information. We need up-to-date information, especially in regards to engagement. I don't want to be contacting people 2 to 3 weeks after an event has happened, because then it's in that, well, there's nothing we can do about that, or it's completely out of sight, out of mind. And then, yeah, the cases pushed into Salesforce to our Te Ata Hāpara agents for the purpose of having a phone call specific about the behavior that has triggered that. And again, much like what Richard was referring to, bringing the mountain to them in terms of these are non-engaged tauira, as exampled and demonstrated by the fact that they have not opened emails or responded to any of our automation, and then allows me to then, from a workflow perspective, be very clear with the amount of work that I create week in, week out to the agents, so that with the quality framework and KPIs and SLAs that we're creating from them, as they are essentially a contact center model, that I'm not creating too much overflow. So coming back to the so what, we've got a methodology, we've applied it. Well, now what? Is it working? So this is where we have built our own kind of dashboards and framework within Power BI to then connect all of those various things within those data models that are pumping into our systems. So I'm looking at our data warehouse, our various CRMs. Our agents do outbound kind of survey capture in terms of very high level questions about how they're going, if they need any help, are they aware of any particular support platforms that are available to them. Salesforce Marketing Cloud's giving me the digital engagement. The tauira services is allowing me to see if our referrals have been successful or not, or if our light engagement and interactions and phone calls and the creation of the awareness of support available to them has created a disconnected support request somewhere else down the line in terms of correlation versus causation. And then this is where all the various cold data and quality framework kind of contact center one-on-one stuff gets put in here for our teams and teams to have a look at as well. So from here, I can now start making those blended views in terms of what was our digital efforts and create that kind of tauira-centric kind of journey with regards to, well, we started digital. We have about a 70% read rate or open rate of our emails. That correlates to about a 30% case completion rate in terms of our non-engagement. And I can start looking at, well, what's the single source of truth for me in terms of what we're trying to achieve? Well, we're trying to provide a positive contribution to tauira success. Is there a correlation between the unit rates, completion rates that our engagements are a direct part of versus the status quo? Or can I identify any particular trends within, now that I can connect our digital engagement to our CRM systems, I can start breaking it down per program level, provide demographical breakdowns. I can start creating insights into our outbound phone efforts. Our initial pilot was purely outbound phone calls, and it was the implementation of Marketing Cloud, which allowed us to complete that workflow kind of view in terms of digital first, scalable, and then create these kind of SLAs, KPIs, and expectations about how many cases we'll be handling to our dedicated Te Ata Hāpara outbound support. And yeah, at the end of the day, are we contributing to our course completion rates via bringing the mountain to them, as Richard has so eloquently put? Some learnings from the development of this over the last year. Data integrity is paramount. I almost wanted to create I Survived Marketing Cloud implementation shirts for the team because of the perils of old CRM systems that we are supporting but not upgrading, various programs for the program formerly known as XYZ and 2Z5, and various other things. That was quite a headache with our initial data model during the implementation of those systems. One that was a personal learning for me, was being mindful of scope creep and being fearful of implementation, because you will always find a better way of doing something. You have to be very clear with what you are wanting to do, how you're going to achieve it, and ensure that the workflow or systems that you have kind of invested in have the ability to scale or to pivot. There's always going to be a new tool. There's always going to be a new fancy way of doing things. So it's just about keeping your eye on the horizon and just ensuring that we get something across the line, deliver on it, and then expand upon that when you can. One thing that we found fascinating was the nurturing of the relationships and communications internally. We are venturing into areas that by all means everybody in our organization is mindful of and finds of importance. Everyone wants to contribute to Tōwhita success, and we're all on the same waka essentially. So we never wanted to step on any particular toes or kind of disregard the value, especially for our kaiako in terms of face-to-face and the personal relationships and being developed there. I didn't want to have the Tōwhita have any risk of thinking the left hand's not knowing what the right hand is doing in terms of triggering, and that's always the peril with triggers and automation in terms of sending out comms and messaging that say one thing and our kaiako saying the other. So it's been of importance to us to ensure that we've had a lot of buy-in and also recognize, well, this is what we can do to support the kaiako in terms of their nurturing and their relationship building as well. We want to assist them with being the the chaser-uppers in terms of assisting them with their administrative tasks, because they are also aware of and put things in their retention plans in terms of behaviors such as attendance, assessment rates, and what have you. So it's been a really, really great opportunity for us to nurture those internal relationships and say, well, hey, we're all in the same waka here, but here's what we can do to help you. Next steps for me and for the team is moving to a stronger predictive analysis model. One of the perils we found with looking purely at individual data points and the grouping of them is that we're starting to identify outliers that come through our systems, but clearly don't need an intervention. In terms of Tōwhita that are doing extremely high level, or maybe even kaiako themselves. There's a lot of outliers. So we've developed a really great relationship with our IT departments through the implementation of this, and specifically in regards to data integrity and our data warehouse and like the collating and storing of the centralized data. They're looking at systems that would provide me a more robust predictive analysis modeling, which to me feels I'm really excited to look into that, and in terms of replacing how we group and allocate our CONI levels more to a predictive analysis kind of spectrum. Again, next steps is scalability. This initial workflow has been built for the purpose of an outbound support team. How many people are in that team? Well, we have a process and workflow in place that will allow for growth, allow for various skill sets. And then again, most importantly is our internal communications. Make people aware that what we're doing. Again, coming back to that, I want the left hand to know what the right hand is doing, so that there's no double handling or kind of confusing messaging. And also just to share the fact that we have capabilities like this now. We haven't for quite a while. We have processes that have been in place, and this is how we do it kind of thing. So getting people excited about the potential of using data in this method, and the application of systems that would allow us to do things like predictive analysis, modeling workflows, triggers, automation, and what have you. It's been a really, really interesting and really fun journey to get to where we are. We're now just at the point of looking at, this year's information. And yeah, I'll pass this back to Teresa, and thank you for your time.
Oh, namahi, Ross. I think you had a great time geeking out there. But no, I think Ross said it all eloquently. This is a whole, Wānanga-wide approach. This isn't just a Te Ata Hāpara approach. All of our whānau in the Wānanga have tauira success at the centre of their thinking and put the tauira at the centre of, the everyday mahi. We're not alone in this, and we couldn't do it alone. So, acknowledging the rest of the wider Wānanga is really important in this kaupapa as well. And yeah, we're just really looking forward to the next steps in the futuristic focus and taking this kaupapa even wider. So yeah, ngā mihi pāna, kia koutou katoa. That's us. That's our presentation, whānau.
Wonderful. Ngā mihi te Wānanga Aotearoa. Thank you, Teresa and Ross.